right, today we're going to get into something really fundamental, the science of learning itself. And we're going to tackle a question that, let's be honest, every single one of us has probably asked at some point, whether you're a student, a parent, or a teacher.
And here it is. It seems so simple, right? But the answer? Oh, it's anything but. I mean, think about it. You've got the same classroom, the same teacher, the exact same lesson plan. So why is it that some students just get it and fly while others seem to struggle? What is really going on there?
Well, believe it or not, there's an entire field of science dedicated to cracking that exact puzzle. It's called educational psychology, and its whole mission is to understand the nitty-gritty of teaching and learning.
So what is it really? At its heart, it's the science of what's happening in that moment when one person teaches and another person learns. It basically borrows all these powerful principles from psychology and points them straight at the classroom to figure out, what works, what falls flat, and most importantly, why.
And I absolutely love this analogy from our source material. It suggests we should think of an educational psychologist like an engineer, but for education. You know how a civil engineer uses the laws of physics to build a bridge that won't collapse? Well, an educational psychologist uses the principles of human behavior to build learning environments that actually work. It's all about applying hard science to solve real-world problems.
Okay, fair question. What makes this a science? Why isn't it just a bunch of good ideas or, helpful teaching tips? Well, the difference is huge, and it all comes down to its incredibly rigorous and systematic approach.
See, this isn't about guesswork or what feels right. It all starts with observation, looking at the actual facts. Then, it uses objective, unbiased methods to collect data. From there, the goal is to establish general laws about learning, things that can be tested and proven over and over. And the ultimate goal? To understand behavior so well that we can predict it and hopefully guide it toward better outcomes for everyone. What I find fascinating is that this field kind of wears a few different hats. It's part natural science, using methods that wouldn't look out of place in a biology lab. It's also a social science, because hey, it's studying people. It's what's called a positive science, which is a key distinction. It studies behavior as it is, not how we think it ought to be. And maybe most importantly, it's an applied science. Its whole reason for existing is to be put to use in the real world. So that brings us to the million-dollar question, right? How does all this theory and science actually help a teacher in a classroom on a Tuesday morning? Well, this is where it all comes together. Educational psychology is like the ultimate toolkit for any educator. Think about it. It gives teachers the framework to really know their students, not just their names, but what they're interested in, what they're good at, what they need help with. It helps them understand those crucial individual differences. It gives them proven, effective methods for teaching, not just winging it. It even offers concrete strategies for tackling tough classroom problems, things like bullying or truancy. It helps them build a curriculum that's actually centered on the child, and it provides the foundation for real, effective guidance. I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about making teaching better and learning more successful for every kid. But to really get a handle on educational psychology, I think it helps to take a quick step back and look at where it came from. Because its story is completely tangled up with the story of psychology itself, and man, has that field changed over the years. I mean, look at this timeline. It's wild. Way back with the ancient Greeks, psychology was literally the science of the soul. Fast forward to the 18th century, and it becomes the science of the mind. Then in the 19th century, it's the science of consciousness. But the real game changer? That happened in the 20th century. Psychology threw all that out and became the science of behavior, focusing only on what we can actually observe and measure people doing. And I just love this quote from the psychologist R.S. Woodworth. It perfectly sums up that whole evolution. He said, "First psychology lost its soul, then it lost its mind, then lost its consciousness. It still has behavior of a sort." It's kind of funny, but it's also profound. That final shift to studying observable behavior is what made educational psychology possible as a real science. The logic is simple. If you can see it, you can study it. And there were a couple of huge milestones that really put it on the map. First, you've got Wilhelm Wundt opening the first ever psychology lab back in 1879. That's pretty much the moment psychology became a real experimental science. Then, a little later, you have people like E.L. Thorndike, who many call the father of modern educational psychology, who started creating these systematic laws of learning based on actual hard research. Okay, so we've got the history, but how do researchers actually do this stuff today? What are the tools in their toolkit for investigating how we learn? Let's take a look at the methods they use to get all this data. Well, they've got a whole range of approaches. There's introspection, which is the classic method, basically looking inward and reporting on your own thoughts. Then there's observation, which is exactly what it sounds like, watching a learner's behavior out in the wild, like in a real classroom. The experimental method is super important because that's how you find cause and effect, by carefully controlling all the conditions. And finally, there's the case history, where you do a super deep dive on just one person, which is really useful for diagnosing specific problems. Now, a lot of modern research uses two major designs. The first is a longitudinal study. The best way to think of this is like watching a movie. You follow the exact same group of people over many years to see how they change and develop. On the other hand, you have a cross-sectional study. This is more like taking a snapshot. You look at different groups of people, say a group of 5-year-olds, 10-year-olds, and 15-year-olds, all at the same time to see the differences. Both are incredibly powerful tools for understanding how we learn and grow. And all of this brings us back to what might be the most important question of all, because this isn't just some abstract academic thing, right? It has real, profound implications for every single one of us. So I'll leave you with this. How can truly understanding the how and the why of learning change the way we teach, the way we parent, or maybe even the way we learn ourselves? It's definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining me.